New season, new team for the Super Bowl winning Seattle Seahawks. For GM John Schneider, in my opinion, to undoubtedly be one of the top two GMs in this league. He's shown it once, he's shown it twice in terms of retooling a roster and taking another run at the Super Bowl. Now here with head coach Mike Macdonald. This is a team that has made some moves here in free agency, had some big exits, but part of that is anticipating some big moves they're going to have to make and re-signing players going into next year with their current status. We'll look at that with their cap space. And then look at their 4 draft picks, only 4 here, and how they could retool in those spots. Starting at what we've seen thus far in 3 to 4 days of free agency, re-signed wide receiver Rashid Shaheed, who was so critical in them winning the Super Bowl, having made the trade with the New Orleans Saints to go get him. Was some rumor mill as far as former Seahawks offensive coordinator, now Raiders head coach Clint Kubiak wanting to target Shaheed, and you saw his affinity for him and his play calling down the stretch and ultimately winning the Super Bowl. But to get him at 3 years, $51 million, I thought was really exciting for someone who became part of their identity. And then on top of that, re-signing Josh Jobe at a corner spot for 3 years, $24 million, opposite of Devon Witherspoon. Having seen Tariq Woolen walk out the door in free agency to the Eagles for 1 year, $15 million, as a move we all knew was coming. Woolen himself chose him there. Super Bowl MVP, running back Kenneth Walker III, excitedly headed to the Kansas City Chiefs, paired up in a major upgrade from Isaiah Pacheco and past first-round draft pick Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as far as the Chiefs' continuing effort to get a high-end running back asset to pair with Patrick Mahomes, and their return of Travis Kelce for 1 more year. And then you kick that over, to strong rotational edge rusher Boy Mafe, headed to the Bengals with their Trey Hendrickson exit, hoping he takes the next step as well there for them as a former second-round pick for the Seahawks. And then lastly, safety Kobe Bryant headed to the Bears in free agency, and one that I think really could point to them having a retool there at that spot. As we alluded to earlier, do have $45+ million in cap space as we sit right now, but you got to project these 2 big extensions coming up that they're undoubtedly going to make, and 2 former first-round picks that have become the identity of their team and elite at their positions in terms of the league. That being cornerback Devon Witherspoon, the dog that he is and the physicality he brings, and arguably the top receiver in the NFL in Jackson Smith and Jig. But those guys are going to get paid. They're going to get paid big. So that $45 million number is great, but a lot of that's going to be allocated to upcoming extensions for them. Having said that, and then throwing it over to what we can project as far as these 4 draft picks they have. I think running back is an obvious one. You've seen Kenneth Walker III walk out. Zach Charbonnet, that era seems to be wrapping up as well. They've got to get a new identity there early. Safety, as we already mentioned, and a consistent theme of adding some receiver talent, adding some edge talent as well. We're going to touch on all 4 with these 4 draft picks. At 32, went with a running back to start because the value was just too good versus the other positions. Already seen and project the top 3 safeties in the class to be gone, that being Caleb Downs, Dylan Thieneman, and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Having looked at an edge spot as well, I think the value is better day 2 there for that cluster undoubtedly at this point. Haven't seen the top go in the top 10, 15 picks. And then as far as receiver, that being more of a need to address with an aging Cooper Kupp. Jake Bobo as well should have been mentioned earlier in the video. Again, covering 32 teams the last few days. It is a lot of names. Having 400 players on your draft board, it's a lot of names. But mention that as well as somebody in that rotation. Jadarian Price, in terms of projecting the difference in the cap savings, at this pick slot would get a contract for 4 years, $16.17 million. a drastic savings versus what they would have had to shell out to match and beat a Chiefs offer as a fellow contender for him to go play with. Really soothing jump cut. A lot of ability there. You see the explosiveness. And that being a nice tool that goes from something you see on tape to a statistical productive number. Leads the class in missed tackles forced per touch at 0.3 for the running backs. 5'10 and 5'8", 203 pounds. This guy is absolutely shredded. He has as jacked of arms as anybody in this class position wide. 4.49 speed to match. 10.4 broad and a 35-inch vert. The explosiveness in his upper and lower body is there. Being in that running back tandem that was the best in the country with Jeremiah Love, who I have projected to go 4th overall to the Titans at this point. I think that is all but one of the worst kept secrets in the league. This would be the running back 2 off the board at 32. And for a team that's going to shoot for having a high upside running back that they've had in Kenneth Walker III, liked that as an aid to Sam Darnold and company going forward and a new offensive coordinator. At 64, somebody that just really fits the profile of what they typically have in a rotation, what they've seen leave in a rotation, and a team, if anybody can get the best out of his traits, it is the Seahawks. That's Penn State edge Danny Dennis Sutton. You're talking about a former 5-star recruit out of the state of Pennsylvania. I can speak on my time at the Senior Bowl up close. He was a head taller, classic build as far as the position at 6'6", 256. Frankly, I think that's a slim number for him. I think he played closer to 265. I think some of that was for the testing, but it worked. To turn in a 4'6", 340 that size is absurd. Frankly, a 163, 10-yard split as far as his burst coming out of the gate off the line of scrimmage. A 39.5-inch vert. Can't get desensitized to that. To be creeping up on 40 inches with that much size and mass, disgusting. 10-11 broad might be the most impressive of them all. And a 6'9" 3-cone. You go 7 or sub 3-cone. That's serious translatability in terms of the NFL and to work with. And I think those tools all together and the profile is what sneaks him here in the last pick of the second round, looking at the tiers of this edge class. 33.5-inch arms and a 9.93 relative athletic score. As freak of an athlete as you could hope for at pick 64. Heading into 1 third-round pick and then ultimately 1 day 3 pick. And with that 1 third-rounder at their spot at 96, one of the favorite players in this class just in terms of if you were to just watch the highlights and just look at the stats, and really was one of, if not the star of day 3 at the Senior Bowl, that being TCU safety Bud Clark. 15 career interceptions. This is the ball hawk of the class. To pair with what you have in that secondary, his production will translate. A 9.32 RAS. To be 6 foot, 188 pounds, he has the things he needs as an undersized, little more wiry defender, in that 2 split wide safety, defending the run defense you're going to see with a Mike McDonald, pairing with the physicality of a Nick Eamon-Worry, having the physicality of a Devon Witherspoon, just this ball hawking ability to add to those guys and their physicality. A 38-inch vert, 4.41 level of explosiveness and speed. Really like Clark at that spot. I think he's somebody that can sneak right in there at the end of the third round, somebody wanting a playmaker. And you, in terms of literally that spot at 96, going right back to the last draft and the potential to score on a ball hawk here, Xavier Watts with the Atlanta Falcons, tied for second in the NFL, any position, any age group, with 5 interceptions this past season for the Falcons. A guy that's going to start over the next decade for him there alongside Jesse Bates and then ultimately taking over the 1 spot. That's kind of the thought process here with Clark as well. And as far as that sole day 3 pick, at pick 188, Georgia wide receiver Colby Young. Colby Young being the rare testing guy that comes in 2 inches taller than listed. It's always, oh, he's 6 feet tall, comes in 5'10". Oh, he's 6'2", 6 foot and a quarter. To be at 6'5", 215 range, long, well-built athlete who has proven with strong hands, strong lower body, a 6.3% career drop rate, 14.6 yards per catch. So much production, reliability, and a rotation to be had there for a physical match for an exit you've already had. And the guy's just tough as hell, man. I mean, for him to have come back, played in that college football playoff game against Ole Miss for the Bulldogs, coming off of an October leg fracture that, speaking from a Bulldog fan base, had completely written him off as his year being over and headed to the draft. Testament to his willingness to the team and just toughness overall in his profile. Has had a hell of a path to get to this point, to go 188th in this exercise. 0-star recruit, took a 1-year gap after high school before playing any kind of collegiate football. Then goes to Lackawanna Junior College and ultimately turns that into a scholarship at Miami. Has a great time there to then segue that into a 1-year stint with the Georgia Bulldogs on a college football playoff run. Think he would be an immediate culture fit and some production for a Seahawks team that could use it at the price. And kind of in summary, looking back, haven't mentioned all that cap space, haven't mentioned having to project Jackson Smith and Jigba and Devon Witherspoon, mentioning the exits they've had trying to go more cost-effective coming off of a Super Bowl, to have touched on a running back, to have gotten an edge in there rotationally to develop, have gotten a safety with ball hawk ability, and then gotten a receiver with some physicality and some size. This is a home run, and what we can project will be a home run for a strong John Schneider and Mike McDonald team that really doesn't have many holes, and that's a luxury that they have for the Seattle Seahawks.